Hi, Herself listeners. We are doing something a little different this week. So, this is Abby Green, and I'm actually jumping on solo this week to talk about something that has really been hitting home with me a lot lately. It has been hitting home in a lot of the conversations I've been having with friends and with community members. And I wanted to bring it to the podcast because this last week, I feel like it's hit home more than ever before in parenthood. And it's this pull between loving motherhood, but also really grieving the freedom that we used to have. And if you've been a listener for a while, you know that freedom is one of my number one values. I love freedom. I love being able to have the flexibility and freedom to do what I want, eat what I want, go to sleep when I want, be where I want. And having kids definitely threw a wrench in that. And it was one of those things where for some of us, having that first kid, it's this reality check. You just don't know what to expect. So you go from being pregnant with just you and your partner, being able to, get up and just go on a date night whenever you want to, sleep in, watch Netflix, whatever it is, whenever you want to all of a sudden, there's this tiny human that is so cute and so squishy and so wonderful, but they require so much of your attention. And overnight, all of a sudden, you feel like you lose your autonomy. For others like me, the first kid didn't hit me as much as every subsequent kid. It just felt almost like the responsibility was piling on with each kid. I was able to see all the wonderful things, obviously, about having children and wanted these children so badly. But then the responsibility of it and my love for freedom, they were just fighting. They were just fighting. And I feel like I've been swimming upstream. I've been swimming against the current for so long now that I need a reality check. I need an internal conversation. And so I'm literally having this conversation not only for myself, but for anybody out there who feels this tug between wanting to love motherhood, but at the same time, really missing your freedom. So this message is for you, XO Abby Green, because I am feeling it. And I know so many others are feeling that as well. Being a parent doesn't make it easy to find times for freedom. It doesn't make it easy to find times to be full of autonomy, but it is really important. And so during today's conversation, I want to pull in not only just a list of reframes, because I do think that sometimes the situation is going to be what the situation is. We can't change the situation. We are parents. They are in our lives. We love these tiny human beings. And at the same time, they will take some of our freedom away. But changing our mindset around it, that can make a really big difference in a positive way. So a little bit of mindset reframe, but then also some strategy. And I was able to talk with friends and community members about this. And a lot of you gave some really good tips, some of them that I hadn't even thought of, others that I had already pulled into this discussion. And so I know that if you've been a listener for a while, Amy and I, we love this podcast because we're bringing really different things to the podcast. Amy is, full of life, chaotic, type B, like go with the flow, spontaneous. I am a little more scheduled, a little more type A, a lot more type A, kind of quirky. But for this purpose of freedom, I really do think that it hits every type of personality. It hits every type of personality. It hits every type of person. It hits it on a different way. It hits it in different levels. For somebody who craves organization and control and, being my own person, having my own sense of schedule, it hit in a very specific way. And I will go into those details. But I also talked with a lot of you that don't really identify as type A. You're not quite as neat freak and organized and everything has to have a plan type of person like I am. And I know it also is hitting. I also just want to say that I'm in the weeds with you on some of these things. Okay. I do not have all the answers. So I'm not going to pretend that I have every single answer as we have this conversation today, but I can tell you that I can bring some light to this because I've done a lot of inner work. I have done a lot of work with my therapist. I have done a lot of work as a coach. So as a professional coach, I have gone through the booklets. I have gone through the documents. I have gone through the reframes. I have gone through the exercises. And I can tell you it helps. It helps a lot. And I can tell internally and just how I'm loving the motherhood experience. Like, let's break it down to that. You can love being a mother so much more when you're not swimming against the current. When you let this life be as it's supposed to be instead of fighting it, I promise you, it's going to feel easier and you're going to get so much more enjoyment out of motherhood. And I think that if you're a Herself listener and if you've been listening to Amy and I for a couple of years now, you know that that is one big thing we bring to the podcast. We want to make sure that we are loving this one precious life that we have. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to say some things that they might sound like complaints. They might sound like negative energy, but they are truths because there are several times on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, where I will look at my life and I will think, how did I even get here? Like, how did I even get here? I was happy and free and loved spontaneity. I didn't have a schedule or a plan and was doing fine. And all of a sudden, now I'm a person that has to have everything under my control, or I will literally flip out. How did I get here? I know I'm not alone. And so, do any of these ring true for you? And I love my kids so much, but I often find myself wishing to go back to a time when things were more simple, when things were more predictable, when things just felt easier because I wasn't responsible for as many things. And again, I know I'm not alone with that. So it's this idea that even when we get our freedom, we still have our kids on our mind. Like we never get to actually have the chance of being fully off. You know, that light switch, it's really hard to turn it fully off as a mom because you're still responsible for the lives of these tiny human beings, even if you're not there in person. I mean, it might be like, what are they doing right now? What do they need next? It might be mom guilt of feeling like, gosh, I really should be with them. It might be guilt that you have with your partner of, oh my goodness, they were screaming when I left. I can't believe I left my partner with them. I hope that he or she is doing okay. Like these are all the thoughts that go through our mind that can almost make it not enjoyable to get freedom. I was with two of my college friends. We hadn't seen each other for 10 years, you guys. It had been over a decade. It was one of their weddings, the last time that the three of us got together. We were roommates for multiple years in college. We spent literally hours and hours and hours every single day together for years. We spent time on the weekends together. Even after college, we lived in all three different states and we still made time to see each other. And it's one of those things where all of a sudden the first one had kids and then I had kids and then the other one had kids. And now it's been 10 years since we've gotten together. But when we were together, we really made it a point right away at the beginning to say, we need to be present because it was like checking phones. It was like asking about the kids right away. And right away, we're like, we have to be able to sink into this moment because otherwise the freedom doesn't feel like freedom. You still feel like you're attached to the life. And obviously we are like, we are still mothers. We are still parents. We're still going to be attached to these tiny human beings, but we can be better versions of ourselves and we can be far more present with our kids when we're with them. If when we're not with them, we're actually off or we give ourselves the ability to find ourselves and be ourselves when they're not around. Does that make sense? Because it can be so hard, but it's also so important. There's also this idea that when you are away, when you do get the freedom, there's still this ticking time clock that, oh, remember, you still have to go back home. Oh, don't go too long because you have to go back home. Oh, remember, you still need to get back. That's really hard. And I was actually talking with a few stay-at-home moms who their kids are now both in school. And they were thinking, okay, I'm going to finally have all of this freedom. It's going to be wonderful. And they said, yes, there's definitely more freedom. There's definitely freedom in different ways. But that 2 o'clock time frame or the 3 o'clock time frame, whenever they get off the school bus or you have to go to the school and pick them up, it's just always in the back of their mind. Like, okay, one more load of laundry and then you have to go back. Oh, you don't have time to go to the grocery store because you have to get back in time. Do you really want to do a workout and only have it be 15 minutes because you have to go get them? And so this invisible string that's just pulling you back, it's really hard. That's really, really hard. We can have the freedom and be able to enjoy the freedom. But then in the back of our mind, we're always thinking, but not to the length of time that your body and your soul and your energy might need. And that's really tough. One thing that I've noticed with freedom that you might be able to resonate with is that our body and our needs, they don't have their own choices. So when I say this, I mean, when you wake up, it's many times dictated by a child. When you go to sleep, many times dictated by your children. When you're eating, what you're eating, when you go pee, like those are literally things that are many times dictated by these tiny human beings that we're raising. Your needs need to take the back burner. And they shouldn't. Like, that's the thing is that they shouldn't. We should all be able to eat what we want and sleep when we want and drink the water that we want and go to the bathroom when we want. But at the same time, we're raising these tiny human beings and the freedom isn't always there. It's also this idea that for many of us, our lives as women, as mothers, changed so much when we became parents. And then we look at our partner, in my case, a male partner, my husband, Colin, and how little his life seemed to change. Like I look at him sometimes and I'm thinking, you still have the same freedom. You still go into the office and can come home whenever you want to. You can go to the bathroom and nobody is going to bother you saying, where's dad? Where's dad? Where's dad? You could renovate the bathroom. No one's going to notice that you're gone for a couple of days. It's so different in many houses when you have that default parent that the kids are going to. And from talking with the Herself listeners, I know that many of you identify as that default parent. And that makes it really, really hard. Because even when you do get that time to be free or literally just go to the bathroom, there's still somebody, you can hear them, mom, mom, where'd you go? Mom, where's mom? Where's mom? Even though they're really fun for my family, it takes up space on my calendar and it doesn't feel like I have the freedom. Like I would sometimes rather get a workout in, for instance, or go have coffee by myself or read a book than go to some of these practices and some of these games. But I know how important it is for the kids. I know how much my partner also loves them. So although sports can be wonderful, it can feel like it's taking away from my freedom because it's a calendar hold. And it's a hold that's not just once in a while. It's a hold that's every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday in our case right now. It's on the calendar. It's something that we have to do. There's no autonomy in it. That's what it is. We are going to soccer. We are going to basketball. We are going to baseball. That is what it is. And so it makes it really hard as one parent, Colin, who absolutely loves that. And he would spend his free time and his freedom doing that anyway, versus me, who looks at it almost like I would sometimes rather be reading a book, but instead I'm driving all around town to drop these kids off at their sports practices. And again, I'm going to go into some mindset reframes specific to sports because that has been just such a big thing for our family and for me as our kids get older. Autonomy when our kids were younger was hard in different ways. It was our body being needed. Right? It's waking up in the middle of the night to breastfeed or bottle feed. It is kids always being on you. It is being covered in everything that's coming out of these tiny little humans. It's always being needed. Your body is always being needed. And then you get to this point where all of a sudden they're not taking a bottle anymore. They're not breastfeeding anymore. They can eat without you spoon feeding them. And you're thinking, wow, I have my body back. But other things are now happening. There's now play dates to be running off to and sports games to be running off to and school events and field trips to prepare for and forms to sign and all these different things that are pulling at our needs. So it's not like freedom is never going to be part of our lives. Like there will be a part where all of a sudden our kids are grown and our freedom is going to look really different. But right now, when we're in it, I can tell you that it just looks different depending on the season. And I think you guys can feel that, especially if you have more than one kid right now. You can tell the difference between the early newborn days and the freedom and the feeling of being trapped versus school-aged kids and just a difference in what the freedom looks like there. Okay, so if any of those resonated with you, know that you're not alone. A lot of those came from people in this community. You're the ones that brought these up to me. But I want to give some mindset reframes because I was talking with my friend Shayla. So Shayla has been on the podcast. She's an amazing human being and she loves motherhood so much. But she also understands that it can be exhausting and it can be very tiring. And she told me something that I will literally never forget. She goes, Abby, for me, my 20s were for me. My 30s were for them. And my 40s are where I'm going to find balance. And I'm like, Shayla, I love that. Like that was so beautifully said. And there is a whole lot of truth to it. And being 39, I'm getting into the 40s, I can see that there's more areas where freedom is lending itself. The olive branch is being handed off, so to say. But at the same time, it's finding that balance between not wanting to lose out on this motherhood experience, but also wanting to find ourselves and find that autonomy that we so desperately feel like we need. These can be really hard when we're raising these tiny kids. And obviously this depends on when you guys had kids. So maybe you had kids a lot younger, maybe you're having kids older. For me and for Amy and for many of us, like we're having kids, late 20s, early 30s. And I loved the way that she said that. An issue I have with it is that in my 20s, I didn't realize that my 20s were for me. And I think that that's a very common a common realization is that you don't realize how much freedom you have until you no longer have it. And I wish I could go back and be like, wow, you can sleep in until anytime you want to. You could just go on that vacation. If there's cheap tickets to go across the country and you want to go visit a friend or spend a weekend with a friend, you can do that. It's not so easy anymore. Like you can't, that's not always possible anymore. I know some people still do that, and I love that for you. I think about myself as being somebody who would do that, and then I don't actually go and do that. But maybe in my 40s, maybe in my 40s. Shayla later went on to say that she likes to think about the things that she's gained more than the things that she's lost. And I thought that was a really good thing to pull into this episode, because with motherhood, it can be really easy, especially when you're tired, especially when you're exhausted, especially when things feel so heavy, to only think about the things that is taking away from you. But we chose to have these tiny humans, and they are wonderful, wonderful pieces of our lives. And with that, we are gaining so much from being mothers. There are skills that we have never realized that we could have that now we all of a sudden have. There are experiences and memories that without these tiny people, we never would have had those. They bring so much light every single day that I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, like it's these things that we can talk about on this podcast. And that's what Amy and I always want to mirror: reality with solidarity, with solutions. That yes, motherhood can be exhausting, but it is also so wonderful. Like it is so wonderful. It is part of us that I would never want to change anything, never would want to change anything about it. And at the same time, you can see the pieces of you that you're like, ooh, but at the same time, I am changing because of it. In some ways, it's wonderful and beautiful. And in other ways, what can I do to stop those pieces that are changing inside of me that I don't love, so that this motherhood experience can just be better, not only for me, but for these tiny humans that I'm also raising? So changing topics slightly, I wanted to bring up this idea of parenting versus productivity. Parenting versus productivity. Because I'm the type of person that when I'm at home and if I get a free hour or so, and free is relative because there's generally human beings that are tiny little kids running around. But if I feel a sense of freedom, if my partner is home, if they are entertained, I love the idea of getting something done. I love the idea of being productive. Maybe it is decluttering a cabinet or bringing things to donation. Maybe it is going through my closet. Maybe it is cleaning out the refrigerator, restoring our wood furniture, like whatever it is, cleaning out the garage. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's so fun to be productive. I love the feeling. And I know so many of you, it's like this craving. And maybe for those listening, you're like, you crave productivity. Yes. There are many of us that just crave this feeling of being like, I have an hour and there is this closet that needs decluttering. I cannot wait to get my hands on this closet. And it feels so good. The anticipation of it, I'm like salivating thinking about it. You know, you can get the fun bins, you can have the organizers. They don't have to be expensive. They can literally be things that are around your house, but putting things into spots, I just love the feeling of it. And then you realize, oh, wait, I'm a parent. I can't just get up and be productive anytime I want to because I'm in the middle of parenting right now. Okay. Has that ever happened to you? Where you literally, you have the motivation, you have the excitement, you have the time, but you're also a parent. This happens to me so often on the weekends, especially winter weekends. And so we're heading into the winter months right now, especially if you're in the Midwest. It gets very, very cold. A lot of time is spent inside, and it feels so good to have a little productivity. With that being said, you can have the motivation, you can have the time, but you don't have the freedom because you have kids to take care of. And then what happens for me is all of a sudden an hour or two goes by and Colin comes home, or we put on a movie, or one of the kids goes to a play date. So there's only two. It makes it more manageable. And all of a sudden I have the time, I have the freedom, but now I've lost the motivation. Okay. Does that resonate with anybody where you finally have the time but the motivation isn't there? And maybe for you, it's not cleaning. Maybe for you, it is reading the book. Maybe for you, it is getting a workout in. Maybe for you, it's like what I'm talking about right now with being productive with something. You're going to feel so accomplished with something, but all of a sudden you don't have the motivation and you're thinking, if I could have just done it when I wanted to do it, it could have been done and I would have felt great. Anyone else been there? Please tell me I'm not alone, because it is such a frustrating feeling. And I can look at a house and think of all the random tasks that are calling my name. And I'm the work first, rest second person. Okay. So I'm looking around. I cannot sit down and rest. I cannot sit down and enjoy my time. I will literally be looking at the apples to apples game that my kids want me to play so desperately and be like, but there's dishes to be done and there's cabinets to be cleaned. That was what I was wanting to do this weekend. And all I want to do is be a good mom, but I also want to feel accomplished. And it's this sense of freedom that we don't quite have. And we don't quite have it for a really good reason. And it's that these tiny kids of ours, they want their mom to be with them. And this is the part that gets really hard for me because we have this internal battle where I want so desperately to be the fun mom and the good mom and the mom who enjoys parenthood. And I want to have the freedom to be able to do the workout, to do the productive thing, to read the book, to take the bubble bath, to have some time on my own. I want both. But you can't have both at the same moment. You can't do it. It doesn't work. And I tell myself, this is their childhood. This is their life. Like, I chose to have these kiddos, and this is their entire childhood. And at the same time, this is my only motherhood experience. I want it to be beautiful. And all these tiny things that are distractions from my kids, they're things that need to get done. And I understand that. Believe me, my body and my soul wants that cupboard to be decluttered more than anything else. And sitting down and playing that game, that's all they want in that moment. And those tiny little moments added up over days and weeks and months and years and decades. That's life. That's what builds this one truly beautiful life. Will it feel so good at some point to clean out that drawer? Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. It's going to feel so good. But in that moment, I really do try to think parenting is productive. Parenting can be on my quote unquote to-do list. Like, parenting is the thing that I need to be doing right now because these tiny humans, that's all they want is their mom. And honestly, I want to be a really good mom, and being a good mom in this moment means being present and being enjoyable and liking this fun little game that these kids are playing. It's also a good reminder that one missed workout or one missed reading opportunity, one missed productivity task around the house, it's not going to change your life. Okay. It's not going to end things. Will it be frustrating because you still have to do it at some point? Yeah. And at the same time, not playing with your kids one time isn't going to ruin their childhood. But saying no every single time, I know I've gotten into those positions, you guys. I'm saying this coming from a really soft place because I have been there and I know how hard it can feel where weeks have gone by and you realize that you always took the productive choice. You always took the workout. You always took the book instead of being a mom. And that doesn't feel good either. So the reason I'm saying this is because we can so desperately want freedom and think that that's the thing that we want, when at the end of the day, it can feel really, really good to sit down and be a present parent as well. And as a reminder again, parenting is productive. We are raising these amazing human beings and they need us to be part of that. So this is not a guilt trip by any means, because I've been there. I'm right with you. Okay. I am along this journey with you. This is not a guilt trip. This is the furthest from a guilt trip. All I'm saying is that when we have two options, let's balance these options out so that we are loving our motherhood experience while also not forgetting who we are. And it's been interesting because this last week, Owen had surgery. He actually had 4 different surgeries. So he has been home with us for an entire week. And it's been really interesting because, again, I'm a person, when I'm at home, I see all the tasks that need to be done. And all I want to do is do all these random tasks. So what did I do? If you're like me, I'm going to talk about this just for 30 seconds, because if you're not like me, you might be thinking, Abby, you're absolutely insane right now. But if you are like me, I wrote down my list of things that I wanted to do. There were 7 things I wanted to do, and there were 7 days I'm going to be home. And I'm choosing one of them every single day so that when that task is done, my productivity for the day does not need to be there anymore. The rest of my job is to be with Owen, is to take care of Owen, is to recover with Owen, is to rest with Owen. Okay, that is my job. My job is to be a parent outside of that one productivity task. So it's a little bit of a win-win situation because I get the freedom to do the fun thing, the thing that I find fun, the productivity that I get to do, but at the same time, I'm doing what the purpose of the week is, which is to help my child recover. Okay, so I wanted to go into a section on sports specifically because this has been the thing that has tugged at me the most in parenthood. I should say in this season right now. In this season, I'm feeling the most pull from my freedom when it comes to sports. And I'm going to preface this with, I don't dislike sports. Okay. I'm not a sports hater. And I really love my husband and I love my kids and they love sports. Sports for me right now, it just means that it's taking up time away from other things that I would rather be doing. But there are some definite mindset reframes that can happen with this. And there are some strategies that can be put into place. Because my grandma, I'm going to bring this up because my grandma's wonderful. She is almost 98 years old. She still lives in the same home that she has lived in for, 60, 70 plus years. Incredible human being. And when you have your bridal shower and everyone writes down on a card the things that you need to do to have a perfect marriage, and 70 people will write, never go to bed angry. And we're like, no, you should actually go to bed angry once in a while. It's good for a marriage to not always have to solve an issue before you go to sleep. In the morning, it's not as big of an issue. Anyway, what my grandma wrote was, fall in love with the things that the person you fell in love with loves. And for Colin, it's sports. For my grandpa, when he was still alive, it was also sports. So here's my grandma who grew up on a farm. They didn't have TVs. They definitely didn't play sports, not athletic family. She marries this person who is extremely athletic, loves sports, loves watching sports, loves being part of sports, loves coaching sports. So she fell in love with sports because she loved her husband and that's what he loved. And watching them throughout the years, I never knew that my grandma made that switch for him. It was really cool to hear it when I was, 28 years old, whatever I was. And I was like, wait, I thought you always did that. And she's like, no, I did it because it was part of your grandpa and I loved him. And so I'm using that mentality right now because there are so many beautiful things that sports can do that I literally have been pushing away. Because when I think of sports, I'm literally swimming against the current on this one. I'm thinking, oh, it's another practice that I have to go there, drop off, come back home. There's a kid in the back seat. One kid is needing dinner. This kid is dirty. This kid needs a diaper change. This one is on the sidelines going crazy. I can't enjoy it. I can't even bring a chair because who brings a chair when you have a toddler that's running around? That's what sports feels like for me. But for the kids, it is so much more. It is building these lifelong skills, not only on the field with sportsmanship and, being a good team player, but also off the field with communication and learning to say your needs, learning skills that you literally never would have known without these amazing sports. It's also health, and health is another huge pillar, a huge value of mine. It gets us out of the house as spectators. It gets us having fresh air. It obviously gets the little athletes moving their bodies. And so health is so important, even if it takes up time. But I'm like, I get a workout in. I spend, 45 minutes of my day, 30, 45 minutes of my day, multiple days a week getting a workout in. This is their time to do that. It also builds friendships. And when I say friendships, you guys, it's not just for the kids. The kids are building incredible friendships with their teammates. The amount of friends that Amy and I have made on the sidelines, if you're having a hard time making friends or engaging with adults, this is the perfect time for you to meet new people. Like, not thinking about sports as I'm just going to be the carpool, the chauffeur tonight, just running around all the time. Instead, thinking about it as a way to be like, this could be your social hour as well. Again, it's a mindset reframe. Those other moms and dads, they're there as well. You're there as well. You're spending a lot of time together. Can you make that a friendship? Can you make that a deeper connection? Can you ask them to go for a walk afterwards or even go for a walk during practice? Like, there are so many things that we can do to just lighten the burden that sports can sometimes feel and make it feel, honestly, like it's a wonderful thing. But at the same time, those are the mindset reframes. There are also some strategies that we have put into place that have really helped out, because when Colin is in charge of signing the kids up for sports. Okay. It's something that I took off my plate, mostly because I just wasn't signing them up, or I'd sign them up for very, very little because I'd look at my schedule and my calendar and what I wanted. And Colin said, you know what? I think I'm going to take this over. But when he signs a kid up for a sport, he signs our entire family up for a sport. And because of his traveling schedule, he's signing me up to be the carpool person, to be the chauffeur. And so I did have to put my foot down. I said, okay, first of all, not multiple sports per kid per season. We have a lot of people in our family. If every single person is in one, that's one thing. If every person is in two, that's an entirely new ballgame. See what I did there? Little pun intended. Also, he can't just be the sports dad. Amy was with me. We were at the coffee shop, and one of Lucy's teammates' moms came up to me and she goes, "Abby, it's so good to see you. I don't think I've seen you at a single game this year." And I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, that is the truth. Because I was taking the quote unquote easier way out of staying home with the other two kids. I was staying home with the boys, so I didn't have to leave, because taking kids, especially very rambunctious kids that do not sit on the sidelines well, taking them anywhere was harder, in my opinion, than leaving them at home and staying with them at home. But I wasn't realizing that there was an option C, and that was me getting to go to the game and having Colin be the one who takes care of the sideline kiddos. Because in a family, you don't just want dad showing up to the sports. You don't just want mom showing up to the theater. And again, this could be anything for you guys. Anything that your kids are loving that might be a slight inconvenience to your schedule and to your freedom. That's what I'm talking about right now. So for us, it's sports, but for you, it might be something totally different. One parent doesn't get to be the superhero. One parent doesn't get to swoop in and do what they want to do. One parent does not need to be the person to do it. And I'm getting a little feisty on this one because it took us down. I mean, that was our reality for so long until I said, wait, how about I just take Lucy? And then not only did Lucy get to see her mom there, I got to enjoy it. It is so fun watching one kid playing a game when there's no kids on the sideline. I was having so much fun. And at the same time, Colin also realized that taking care of two kiddos at home was not as fun as being the dad that's at the sidelines. So it was just a reality check for us all. And it's something that with this last season, so that was last winter, that conversation happened with the indoor soccer teammate's mom. And this year we're doing things differently. Both parents are either going to be there or one parent will be there, and it won't be the same parent every time. And then lastly on this one, we can't compare our families to other families. And I'm saying this across the board, okay? You cannot compare your family to another family. If you're thinking, oh, but this person on her team is in gymnastics and soccer and does taekwondo 2 days a week. Okay, that works for their family. For us, it's not the same. And maybe it's because they have less kids. Maybe they have more support. Maybe they have a built-in nanny or grandparents that live by. Maybe they have less athletes. There's some people on the team that they do have 3 kids, but only one of them is in sports. The other ones don't care as much about sports. Some of them are only children. Some of them do have parents that literally live within 10 minutes of their home. You cannot compare your family to someone else's. And this is with anything in parenthood. We know that, right? But at the end of the day, when you're literally looking at somebody else and thinking, gosh, how do they do it? Their life is not the same as yours. It's so important that Amy and I say it with the introduction of every single Herself podcast episode. Our life isn't supposed to look like hers. So why are we trying to mold our life to look exactly like theirs? It's just not going to work. So that's kind of the wrap up of the sports part of it and just how it's affected our freedom and kind of what spurred this episode, because there was so many times where Amy and I would sit down and I'd be like, oh, Colin just added on 3 soccer games because Lucy can play up or Micah can play up this weekend. And I was feeling like it was an attack because another thing on the schedule meant my freedom was limited. And instead, we're going to do some mindset reframes, but we're also going to do some strategies. And I want to bring up just a few right now because you're thinking, okay, I'm on board, Abby. I'm good with this. I want to take my freedom back. I want to feel like myself again. And I want to love this motherhood experience. What can I do? Okay, let's just start rattling off a few things that we can do. Number 1, I want you to make a list of the things that you love. Okay, write them all down. The things that you absolutely love. Kate Brosado, she's been on the podcast before too. She encouraged me to start rollerblading again. So what did I do? I got a brand new pair of rollerblades. Lucky for me, Amy also bought a brand new pair of rollerblades. Now, not only can I do something that I loved doing as a child, as a teen, and in my 20s, but I can do it with a friend. And writing down that list, I literally was thinking, I'm like, rollerblading, am I really going to start rollerblading again? Yeah, I started rollerblading again. So for you, what is that list? It can be a short list. It can be a long list. I love having it on my phone because if I get an extra 5 minutes in a carpool line, for instance, or if I'm waiting at a sports practice and there is 50 minutes until I have to take the kid home, or maybe there's a random weekend where all of a sudden 2 kids are at a play date or your partner steps in and says, hey, go have some fun. Just go have some time for yourself. And you're thinking, what do I do? You can pull up that list and go through the things that you actually want to do. And it's so freeing. It was so fun to write that list. Some of the things on there could look like productivity. Like some of the things on there were reading books. And I do like to declutter. Like I actually like to declutter, but I don't like to have a time frame with it. I like to do it on my own and not have somebody who is constantly asking for something or, hey, you have to be done by this certain time. So write down a list of the things that you love because we can honestly be so much more present with our kids when we're taking time outside of our kids to actually do the things that we love. And then I want you to schedule it. Okay. If it doesn't work for you right away, that's okay. But let's just try it. Put it on the calendar. I was talking with a follower who she said that every single Thursday was mom night, where she got to have a few hours every Thursday to do whatever she wanted to do. She would sometimes go and be completely by herself. She would sometimes go and hang out with friends. She would sometimes lock herself in her bedroom and literally not have any responsibility at all. But that was her time. Thursday nights was her time. And then her partner would take a different day. And here's the caveat, guys. When our partners are taking time for themselves, we're not going to punish them for it. We're not going to say how hard it was when they were gone. We're not going to give them strict time frames or check in with them. You are going to get what you want out of it, and they are going to get what they want out of it. Okay. This is how it's going to work. And maybe every week that might be totally out of the picture right now. I know for our family, once a week, there's no way that Colin is getting a day a week and I'm getting a day a week. Could we start with once a month? Could we start with even just one time? Just putting it on the calendar and being like, in 3 weeks, that Thursday afternoon through bedtime is going to be for me. Schedule it, put it on the calendar, look forward to it, find the things that you want to do during that time. Another thing that's really simple, and this was something that we did when I got together with my college friends this last weekend, is when you do get together with friends, ask them about themselves first. Ask them, how are you doing? And actually want to know the follow-up to the answers. I think it's so easy as moms that we will ask about the kids right away or ask about their partner, and we forget about them as a person. And it puts the invite out there that the conversation can be rooted in us as women and as friends, as adult friendships is the key to it and not the humans that we are raising. And it's a simple switch, right? We want to know about their kids. We can ask that down the line. In a couple of minutes, we can ask about the kids, but right away, making it a point to ask about them and how they are doing. It can completely change the dynamic for those friend get-togethers. And then finally, as a last one, this has been brought up a lot of times before, but I am feeling it a lot right now, especially as I'm taking care of a recovering kiddo at home and the house still needs attention and the other kids still need attention. And I feel like my freedom is literally being pulled away in all these different ways. When our kids' emotions are all over the place, we cannot help them regulate unless our emotions are regulated too. And I know it's easier said than done. I get it. But once in a while, if we can take a beat and just think internally, what can I do for me? It's going to be the key and the baseline and just the foundation for making this whole thing feel easier. Because we know it, we can't pour from an empty cup, but that is going to take several different steps. You can't just one day be like, I'm not going to snap anymore. No, it's going to be getting your needs met, taking the time that you actually need, asking for the time that you need, and then enjoying it while you're doing it. And it's a lot of steps. It can feel like a lot of steps. They're simple steps, but there's many of them. And so we really, as a herself community, we need to do a better job of thinking about what we need. And in those small pockets, yes, they're smaller than they used to be. But when we do get that freedom, the little bits of freedom that we have, enjoying it, loving it, looking forward to it, being thankful and grateful for it, because we know that this is just a season. Okay, the days feel really, really long, but at some point, our kids will be old enough that we could go on a date without having to, get grandparents or a sitter and all these plans into place. We'll be able to be a little bit more off knowing that they're independent and can take care of themselves a little bit more. All of these things are stages. And the beautiful and heartbreaking part about motherhood is that nothing lasts. And so from my heart to yours, I really want to make sure that we are loving this part of motherhood as much as we can, even if we're missing the freedom that we have. So I hope that this message hit for you. I know that it's a message that I needed and will continue to need, but between mindset reframes and strategies, we really can make this experience not only better for us, but for the people that we love most. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next